this world, you've got the choice. It's the surge. Yeah, the social surge. Fly and low. They bring the urge to market smart. To market.
Good morning. Good morning. It is Social Surge with Fly and Mo, and it's just Mo for right now. I have a special guest coming in. Allison Weiss will be joining us today. Super excited about that. So good morning, everybody. Hope you guys are having a fabulous day. Lady, thanks for joining us over on the gram. I am over to and today we are going to be talking with Allison about making a clean exit and an even better entrance. What am I talking about? Well, as we all know, it's the beginning of the it's actually halfway through February, and lots of people have been moving. They've been changing positions. They've been going to different companies, and so I thought that this would be a perfect time for us to actually discuss what that means, and how do you make a clean exit? How do you enter strong? Especially if you don't want something to come back and bite you in the butt. Good morning, Beth. Thanks for joining us over on the gram. Thanks for joining us, Holly Pennington. I see you, Robin Hendricks, as well as Regalado Real Estate. Everybody over there on the gram, thanks so much for being here this morning. It is Social Surge with Fly and Mo. Mo's not here. No, Fly is currently not available. I know everybody is. She is actually with a bunch of our friends over in Georgia. They are at Guns and Grits with Ken Ashley and a whole bunch of other people. Amy Calandrino's over there. And good morning, beautiful.
Hi, how are you? So sorry.
No, you're good. This is Allison Weiss. I was just talking about our friends being over in Georgia at Guns and Grits, and they are having a hell of a good time there. We've got, so that's actually a good segue. A lot of those folks are very much involved in CREI Summit, and CREI Summit lists February 28th is the deadline for the LinkedIn list. However, when you go and submit, you have to put in, there's all the different stuff that you can put in for. There's LinkedIn list, there's X, there's retweet, which if you're an investor and you're on the X platform, you're part of the retweet community, that's where you would put your information in. You can nominate for influential women in business or in commercial real estate. So you can nominate somebody for that. You don't actually have to put in for any of the other lists. But please submit yourself for the list. We've also got podcasts and Instagram. So I think I got through the entire list. LinkedIn, X, retweet, Instagram, and podcast. So that's CREISummit.com. That's where you're going to want to go. February 28th is the deadline for LinkedIn. But you're going to be there putting your information in. So you might as well just get it all done all at once. So I've got Miss Allison Weiss on with me this morning since Fly is in Georgia. And Robin Hendricks says, good morning from the Gulf of Mexico. Wow, that's awesome.
Wow, jealous. I'm in Houston currently, so I'm not too far afield.
What are you doing in Houston this morning?
I'm here for a conference. I'm here for an MH conference put on by Sunstone Real Estate Advisors and a few other sponsors, and it's great. We're getting kicked off here in about a half an hour, 45 minutes.
You're like, make it quick, Mo, make it quick. Okay.
No, I'm so thrilled to be here.
So Allison, for our audience of those who are not familiar with your beautiful face, give us some info about who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. So my journey in commercial real estate began about, I think, 12 or 13 years ago at this point. I have always been on the people side of the business. I worked in-house, recruiting brokers, teams of brokers, doing, finding firms to acquire and basically taking them from cold call all the way through negotiation, onboarding, integration with the business, and also did a variety of other things like campus recruiting. I recruited for the debt and equity arm of Marcus & Millichap. I did a similar thing at Colliers and then decided to start my own firm called CRE Recruiting. I work with and have worked with a variety of clients really across the spectrum. Every nook and cranny in our business from, of course, the brokerage world, but also CRE tech, prop tech, the fund side of things, fund, FUND, although all of it is fun to me. and have just had a wonderful career helping people make transitions, helping people continue to grow and elevate and achieve personal and financial goals using commercial real estate as a wealth building tool.
Amazing. So you do all of those things, and you have a platform that you are lifting up the voices of women. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a platform called Women Speak CRE. It's all about creating more visibility and more opportunities for women in a variety of different ways, whether that's on stages, in the media, on social media, and really have been working on that for about the last year and a half, probably. It was one of those things where, you see one too many, what I call manels. It's just men on the panel.
Yeah.
And you have to eventually do something. And I've heard all the excuses, right? Well, we just don't know a woman who does industrial development, or we don't know any women in the C-suite. And, the C-suite in commercial real estate is only comprised of 9% women. And so some of this is a real problem that we're facing. But it's also because people just weren't looking. They were choosing the folks that they had worked with before and the folks that they knew. And so I thought, let me remove all the excuses. Let's create a list of wonderful women who want to speak and want to have more visibility and more opportunities. And so that list is grown to a few hundred women. It's used constantly by conference creators, which is, the biggest reward, I think, is to see all of these different women start to pop up more and more on stages. We're getting hopefully closer and closer to parity on stages. We've got a long way to go as it relates to equity and compensation, but our voices need to be heard. And really, our list also, it's not just curated once you have a certain level of experience. There's value in every story. And so if you're thinking about it, it's free to sign up. It's free to access. There's no reason that people shouldn't use it. And it's just the thrill of my life to do this work.
And what's the website address so that they can go sign up?
Yes. I should be better at this. www.womenspeakcre. And reach out to me if you're a conference organizer, if you're a media outlet, if you're looking for specific help in using the list. I get those calls all the time. Hey, Allison, who do you know who's an expert on retail investment? I just had that conversation for an event that's coming up with ICSC in May in Vegas. So anytime you have questions and want help navigating the list more quickly, happy to help people.
Wonderful. So that's womenspeakcre.com. Go over there, sign up if you haven't done so already. We got Marcy Moneypenny in the house joining us from Denver, one of our favorite.
Hi, Marcy.
Yeah. And then Jonathan Papica and James Milner have joined us over on the gram. So good morning to you guys. Now,
huge fan.
When Fly said that she couldn't come and she asked you to join in, I was like, okay, cool. How are we going to shift this? And I started thinking about the fact that it's the beginning of the year. Lots of people are transitioning. They're leaving one brokerage or firm and they're moving to another one. And it made me think about the fact that, what are some of the things that happen on the exit and the entrance, right? The exit of the one company is important. The entrance is also important. Ben Nolte-Siri has also joined us over on the gram. And Robin Hendricks says, looking forward to the women's panel at ICSC in May. So what are some of the things that, your exit is all about your reputation, but your entrance becomes your leverage, right? So how can people make a good exit and make an even better entrance?
Such a great question. And I think one of the things that people underestimate about leaving one company and going to another is the emotional impact of that and what it does to your stress levels and what, heightened cortisol and maybe some of these feelings do to your ability to focus and do the smart things to prepare to leave before you actually go. And so, one of the things that I do when I help folks transition or when I'm coaching someone through that is I have a very structured, it's probably a 20-step process that can begin, maybe 60 days out from departure to make sure that you're doing some of the smart administrative things early on in the process. One of the things folks don't often realize is if they have their phone set up maybe to sync with their company contacts and not sync with their own. I've had that experience when I left a company, that all of a sudden the light switch happens and all of your contacts are gone. And so then you're going through and fumbling through these numbers that are really important and trying to piece together from the messages who is that person. So there's some practical things that are more administrative and technical. What I would say is the smartest way to do it is to think about your, kind of VIP contacts. So sometimes if you're on the deal making side, those are your clients. And there are certain clients that you are going to tell sooner in the process than others. You've got to be careful and strategic, right? You don't want to put some things in writing. And so you're having voice-to-voice conversations. You're letting them know why you're making this switch. Specifically, and if you're in sales, you're a broker or doing business development somewhere, maybe you're in title and you want to bring those people with you. They're your partners in making this transition. This transition is actually about them, and you love their support. These are the different reasons that you feel like the change is the best thing, and you'd love their support in that. I think that when you do it that way, often the client will say, of course, I'm going with you. You're my person. It's not necessarily about the company. It's about the individual. And so, it really is an opportunity to strengthen those relationships, because you're showing that person that you trust them. You're being a little vulnerable with them. You're really showing that you're acting in their best interest in this transition, and you're letting them into the circle of trust, right? And that's a trust building moment. So that piece, I think, is important to do. You absolutely don't want your best clients to find out from someone else in the market, because that's a trust destroying experience. Or just from your announcement, right? You want to have, the foundation laid, so when someone goes to that client or it comes up in conversation, they feel great about the fact that they knew before the rest of the world, right? They feel special. So that kind of management of relationships is a big deal. I think what people often lose out on is the opportunity to really use what the algorithm does for you when you make that announcement. So we know that LinkedIn's algorithm is a little funky these days. Super funky, but the announcements, the anniversaries, that's something that LinkedIn has always been really good about, kind of vaulting to the top of people's news feeds. And so when you're going to make that announcement, some people just do the, I've updated the job, I'm not going to write anything about it. There's that announcement that immediately occurs in the system, unless you go in and turn it off, which you can do. So check your settings maybe before you do this. Oh, Lindsay Barden, I have some news for you, Lindsay Barden. I can't wait to share. It has four hooves and a tail, Lindsay Barden. Anyway, the announcement piece is so important. So, thanking people on your way out, if that is relevant. If it's not relevant, doing those thanks in private, and then talking about the future. The what do they say? The windshield is so much bigger than the rearview mirror for a reason. And so focusing on all the different reasons that this is a great decision and why you're so excited and what this role means for you from a growth perspective. I think sharing all of those things helps people to understand the context, especially if it might not make sense for them. If you're transitioning maybe from one niche into another, or if you're moving across the country, these are, again, ways for people to keep up with you and to understand your story and to follow along. And then when people run into you at conferences, they're really excited to talk, because they know they feel clued in with you. And it's a missed opportunity when people really aren't taking advantage there. And I'd love, actually, Mo, do you think when you're making an announcement like that, would you do photos? Would you do a video? I think, detailed captions and tagging the right people, if they're going to engage, is great. But what would you do in an announcement video?
Give me just a second. So Ben Nolte series on the gram says, great advice, Allison. After 12 years, I transferred companies in August. And then he writes, you heard it here first. Allison Weiss is getting a goat. You're getting a goat.
It's not a goat. It's not a goat. But I'm living for all these guesses. Guess what it is? Mo knows. Mo knows.
When it comes to announcements like that, I think just a simple written announcement is good. I don't, I'm a big fan. Obviously, I'm a big fan of putting your face on just about everything. And there's a reason for that. There's a psychology behind it. It's not just I'm egotistical and I need my face on everything. No, it's because humans connect with humans and it creates that connection. Whereas if you, so I think a well-written post can go very, very far. I don't think you need to be passive aggressive in your announcement. That is not a good idea at all. Good morning, Alan. Oh, hold on. If LinkedIn is not a bulletin board, take time to embrace the moment. Yes.
Yes, that authenticity. And I know Mo and Fly and I, in our most unhinged group chat ever, we talk a lot about, slop and good posts and bad posts and things like that. This is not a time for Chat GPT. This is a time for what is coming from your heart. What do you feel? He meant she is the goat. I'll take it. I will take it. But yes, I would say from your heart. No, it's not a pig. This is a fun little. Oh my goodness. Yeah, write it from the heart. Do not go to AI or, Chat GPT or anybody to write this. If you're struggling with a sentence, maybe to help you refine that one sentence, but you want people to hear you as if you're in the coffee shop talking to them about this. Like, bring people in and use the language that you would use. And it's just really hard to do that with AI these days.
Right, exactly. Well, I mean, it can be. I think if you are stuck, AI would be a good opportunity for you to help with like ideation, right? But you are absolutely correct. You should not be putting a message through through AI. That'll be a little disingenuous, I guess is the best word. And if you are a lot like Allison and myself and Fly, and pattern recognition, then you can understand like, oh, this was AI written. Like, okay, this is so it gets to that point where it's just a little, like I said, disingenuous. Allison, I wanted to talk specifically about, we know that people, when they are transitioning from one position to another or one company to another, negotiation wise, they leave a lot of people. And specifically, we've had actually conversations. There's a couple women that we know that were just, I couldn't believe it because it was just such a like a weird concept to me, but it made so much sense. They actually, as they left one company to go to another, they negotiated their marketing budget in their contracts, which I was just like, what? Wow, you can do, like, it seems so childish to me that I didn't realize that, but like, what, you can actually do that? Yes, you absolutely can. So where are people often leaving money on the table when they do negotiations?
Yeah, I think the marketing budget is such a good one because I think, if you're in business development, a marketing budget is a significant driver of revenue and income for you if you're, variable commission or anything like that. And so I think that one is huge. And for whatever reason, that's one that doesn't occur to people. And that could include, those marketing dollars. I would make sure, if that's separated out for T&E, for T, what is T? Entertainment is the E, T&E, travel, there we go, travel and entertainment. You should think about that. Conferences, there are certain conferences, Mo, where you're a fixture and I'm a fixture and we can't not go to those conferences. And so having those picked up by your company is really crucial. I think professional development is one that people almost never think about. And so if you have specific goals, maybe it's you want your company to co-invest in a certification, in a graduate program, those sorts of things. Actually, companies are silly for not doing more of because they're great retention tools. For instance, companies, if they're paying for a portion of, let's say, some MBA classes for you, they can put, some boundaries in there of, retention. If we're going to pay X amount of money, then if you leave within X number of years, you have to pay that back. And so there's benefits both ways. And so I would say professional development expenses are huge. I would say, if there's a particular skill or part of the business that you might be interested in learning more about or transitioning to in the future, asking to be a part of special projects that are outside of your, kind of purview, I think is a great opportunity as well that people don't take advantage of. I think also, leading committees internally. So if you're, I think about so many of the women that I know that are approached to, run women's resource groups or employee resource groups, ERGs, for different, whether they're different communities within their company or what have you. Those are opportunities for visibility. Those are opportunities for speaking and taking the lead. And there are certain times where companies don't have the budget, or they don't have, the ability to reach what you're looking for in maybe the exact way in, kind of base and bonus or base plus commissions or whatever your structure is. I think there's also the opportunity to go in and say, okay, I believe in myself. I'm going to bet on myself. If I'm able to get to this level of revenue, this level of production, if we're able to close out this project by the end of the year, that's going to have a significant impact on our business's efficiency or revenue, or savings from an asset management perspective, at that point, I would like to see this bump. So you can really, nothing is off the table. The worst they can say is no. And this is just another area, I think, where women are conditioned not to ask, or to be more polite or more grateful. And companies expect you to ask and to negotiate. So even if, and these are conversations that I've had before. I feel like I've earned this. We've talked about this. Is there any reason why I am not being promoted to this level? And those direct conversations will tell you a lot about whether the company is invested or not. And then you can start to adjust if necessary. I think you should always be working on your professional development. I think now especially is one of those times where extra skills and extra effort are really noticed. And so, if you have a special interest in technology, if you have a special interest in any other area within your company, put your hand up and offer to be a part of things that are, not in your wheelhouse. It makes you more valuable and well-rounded.
Yeah, you're not being difficult at all. You're just being prepared, right? Like you're absolutely like, hey, this is my life, this is my career, and I'm going to be spending so much time and so much energy and effort with you. Like, you are getting something from me. I'd like to, and yes, while I realize I'm getting a paycheck, right? But there are certain things that I'm going to need to help fulfill this.
I think too. One last point on that.
What was that?
One last point on that. I think too, where you can really be effective is by identifying a problem within your organization and being solution oriented. Hey, I noticed when we get new users, this happens. Or hey, I noticed at the end of the deal, we don't have a good process for how we, set up our closing dinners, or how we thank our clients, or we don't have a good XYZ fill in the blank. If you can come forward with those proactive solutions and you can look for different ways to improve the business, and you find one that's of interest to you, that's the best thing that you can do, because you're proactively identifying kinks in the system and working those out. And so that's another way to position it when you're asking, because it's company forward, right? I see this need, I think I can fill it, as opposed to I want this, give me this. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Beth Azer talks about that a lot, where like, if you see something, fix it, right? Don't ask for somebody to do it first. Just go and do it. Like it's what needs to be done. Okay. So real quick, Robin Hendricks said, are we getting a cat?
A calf with an F or a cat?
A cat. A moo cat.
No. I can't believe nobody's guessing this. Especially with that weird picture I put up of me, the glamour shot of me and my best friend from middle school. Think about that. Think about 4-H Allison, 13-year-old weird little Napoleon Dynamite Allison. Living her dream.
Living her dream.
If she's still here.
Ben Nolte said, I had no concept to even ask for a marketing budget, travel, etc.
Yeah, everything is on the table, y'all. Like we get to be really creative, and it's about what's important to us and what we value. I think, for instance, I had a sorority sister who I had caught up with after a long time of not talking, and she is a very high level architect for a luxury brand. And so she is one of a few people who have this very specific skill set. And she took a role, and because they're a retailer, they had a strict, yes, it is, Lindsay, it is. Anyway, they had a strict PTO policy, and they weren't going to budge on the PTO policy because it also applied to their retail employees. And so she thought, well, oh shoot, she lives and works in New York City. She has family in Minnesota and across the country. And she thought, well, dang it, I just have 2 weeks of PTO my first year, even though I'm coming into this company as a really high level employee. And I said, Sarah, you can negotiate for remote work. You can negotiate for flexible working, conditions for, whether it's whenever you want. Start with that. And if they say no, start to refine it more and more and more. But she could have negotiated and gotten herself a few more weeks of remote work and then, been in Minnesota with her family working, and it still would have complied with their policy. And so just be creative. And if you need help in being creative, I've seen a million things. I'm happy to help you, think through it.
Yeah, like you said, it's all up for negotiation, right? They obviously see something in you where they're trying to actively get you on their team. So, the leverage is really in your court, and you should use it. I think that's why it's important to have these conversations, because not enough people understand, like, there's so much that you can absolutely do and ask for. And like you said, the thing they can say is no, right?
Yeah.
Like, no, it's not going to happen right now.
And Go ahead. Start coming from a place of, I really want to make this work, but this is a deal breaker for me, or this is something that's really hard. In the instance with my friend Sarah, it's really hard for me to only have 2 weeks off when all of my family is across the country. And so that means that I'm going to use all of that PTO for visiting my family, and I'm going to come back and I'm not going to be refreshed. And so I need to have a little bit more time. Could I potentially work remotely 2 weeks out of the summer? And these will be, the different ways I'll check in and all of that. It helps them to see this is not an ask for no reason. You're giving them the context. Not that you have to always explain yourself. I would say don't over explain, but just let them know this is important to you and you're trying to make this work. And these are, the specific, points of contention or rough edges that we need to stand off.
Robin Hendricks over on the Gram says, I've been working all week from the Gulf of Mexico. My hubby gets more PTO, so I go with him, but work during the day. See, exactly. That perfect prime example of that working so well for Robin and her hubby. Real quick before...
Also for being flexible and allowing their employees to do that. I know Dan Spiegel and others, like great leaders there, they really understand the value of investing in their employees. And that's also a sign to you too. If you have a request like that, even if it's a once in a blue moon, for instance, you might have a employee who is going on a bucket list trip and it needs to be more than a certain number of days. How you make that happen can either build or destroy loyalty. Which would you rather have? And how hard is it to replace that person?
I think that's super undervalued when it comes to when you talk about loyalty. I've seen plenty of people who absolutely love the company that they worked for just get crushed because of that lack of loyalty. And then after that, they're just they're quiet quitting, right? Like, yes. or what we would call ROD, retired on duty, right? Because they've only got their exit is right there, and they're just showing up, going through the motions because they do not care anymore. Before we go, I know you got to you write it in 2 minutes. What are some red flags of bad company culture that you think people do not pay attention to?
Yeah. So this is such a good question. And I would say consider yourself a scientist or a detective when you are interviewing, and just look for facial expressions, eye contact. When you're going to an office, how are you greeted? How are people talking to each other or not talking to each other as they're in passing? What is the vibe? What is the energy that you get? When you're asking questions, are you getting direct answers? Are you getting consistent answers? Are you getting outliers? Is there any sort of I think red flags are easier to spot sometimes, but we might be so excited about an opportunity that we downgrade the flags. And so I think, when you're going into these interviews and these, high pressure situations, you have to remember that sometimes your perception is colored by, the adrenaline that you're feeling in the moment. And so you might not be as aware of your senses. And so even just sitting down and having quiet time in your car or after the interview to reflect, what was the tone of the interview? What specific words were used that could be like red flag words? Sometimes you see job descriptions that are a huge red flag. They're talking about, managing multiple priorities in high pressure, fast paced environments. And granted, that might be an accurate thing, but I think asking questions about red flags that are specific to you. For instance, whenever I've gone through a transition, I ask myself these 4 questions. What have I loved? What have I learned? What do I need to leave behind? And what was missing? And so the what do I need to leave behind might be, I can't deal with people who talk down to me. And so when I'm interviewing, I'm looking for signs of that, right? I don't want to recreate my past into the future. But if I don't get real clear with myself and what those deal breakers are, it's harder to spot them. And the truth is, the negative things that we have experienced in the past sometimes feel familiar and safe to us in a way that we could get attracted back to them. And so that's why it's so important to be introspective on the way out of your prior experience and to think about what you're actually trying to create. Because if you are so focused on moving forward and leaving the past behind, you bring that baggage with you into the new role and you create the same experience. And I've had that happen. I know there's probably people listening to this that are like, yep, I've done that. We want to avoid that as much as possible. We don't want to live the same year of our life for 80 years and call it a life. We want to continue to grow and accomplish new things and feel proud of ourselves at work. And I think that introspection is a huge missing piece during the transition.
Okay, give me those 4. I know you got to go, so give me those 4 again. What were they?
Good. What have I loved? What have I learned? What do I need to leave behind? And what was missing? And let me just say something, and I'm okay. I can go a little bit longer. They're having breakfast behind me. As long as you can't hear them, we're good. So what have I loved? These are all of the things that were working for you. So it could be, and this is all for you, right? Go to a coffee shop or your happy place and take pieces of paper and just spill. Like, do not censor yourself. And in fact, sometimes we censor ourselves when we're writing things down because we have this thought of, oh, I need to understand what it means, or somebody else is going to read it or whatever. If that's the case, you could even do voice notes and just do, complete stream of consciousness. Like, it could be a person's name. It could have been a project you worked on. It could have been a deal that you did. It could have been the environment that you worked in. For instance, there have been times that I worked in beautiful offices and times that I didn't. And it actually had an impact on how I felt on a daily basis going to work. So all of the things that were good and you can bring with you into the future. What have I learned is like a little bit of a Venn diagram with what have I loved, because I learned Excel at one point, but I want it to have no major part in my future. So I would not put it on my list. It could be, you learned conflict resolution and you learned you're really good at that. And so you think that you could employ that in a future opportunity. Again, it's also about what we want to attract. So if it's not something that you're like excited about doing again in the future, don't put it on the list. But it could be, a technology platform. It could be that you have, integrated 2 different companies. It could be really anything that's a skill. The tool in your toolbox that goes with you into the future. What do I need to leave behind is where we often focus and ruminate, and it's a good thing to do to get this out of your system. I think sometimes our minds will show us the same information over and over because it's like, oh, don't forget that this person hurt you or screwed you out of the deal because you'll get burned again. Just writing it down allows you to see it, know that it's somewhere, and stop replaying that same tape over and over and over. This is also where I would encourage you not to censor yourself. I've done this before, and I remember writing something down, and I was like, oh, that's really petty, Allison. Like, that's a really small, dumb thing. But no, it's not. It was enough that it came up in my head, and I was like, I don't want to deal with that again. I don't want to deal with like the little microaggressive sort of behavior at work, right? The rolling of the eyes or the sighing, all of that kind of stuff, is toxic. And so I don't want to deal with that anymore. The what was missing, this is a new question actually. So I probably started doing these 3 questions in transition like well before COVID. And I did them when I decided to go on this RV life adventure, and all these different times when I've decided to stop working with a client or to end a friendship or whatever. It's good for every transition. But I realized what was missing was so important, because it's like, what is the thing that I'm still searching for, the itch that has not been scratched, the future sort of opportunity that I want for myself that I'm hoping to grab. That actually is probably the most important question in the bunch, is like, what am I still searching for and hoping to find? And where do I want this next chapter to focus or to lead? And again, if we can't imagine it, envision it, it's much harder to create it. And so I think once you have all of this stuff down, especially the what was missing, it gives us a roadmap and a filter to view opportunities with. So as I'm going to interview, I know, well, hey, the ability to lead a large team is really important to me. And I've had that experience before in my career, and I haven't had it most recently. So I'm going to ask questions about that. What is the size of this team? What are the growth plans or hiring plans for 2026? Because that might be important to me. For others, it might be, tell me about the autonomy of this role. Tell me about what success looks like for this particular project, and having them describe it to you. And then again, like looking and thinking about, okay, these are the things that are important, these are the things that are not. Very rarely are we going to find something that like literally checks all the boxes, but I think we can start to prioritize, right? There are certain things that might be missing that are not deal breakers for me, and other things that are. And so it just helps me to be really honest with myself, because the truth is, interviewing is really not like the experience of working for a company. It's a little bit of a performance, right? It's a performance of who my best self is, and what I'm hoping to achieve and accomplish with this company. And it's the company's performance of, this is the best of us, and this is why this role is open, and all of that. And then over time, things settle out and you start to see it for what it really is. And we can only maybe get, my estimate is probably like 60% of what actually is going to happen out of the interview process. But people leave so much of that 60% on the table by not asking probing questions. And also too, the simple question, tell me more about that. If you don't get the answer you're looking for, to follow up with that, or can you give me an example of that? I'm just trying to picture it. Those sorts of questions are totally fair. And again, I think you want to not just protect yourself from the harm of being in the wrong position, but also, if you're not a good fit for the role, it's not good for the company either. And so you're really doing due diligence. That's how I would think about interviews, scientific research. You're trying on a hat or a pair of pants to see how it fits. And that's a really important process that you shouldn't leave just to chance.
Right. Absolutely. 100%. I think it's asking those questions. Like for me, I know that I could never go back and be an employee. I couldn't. That's not my mindset. When you said autonomy, I'm like, boom, ding, that's my word right there, because I don't want you to micromanage me. I don't need you to micromanage me. I know my job. I know what I'm supposed to do. I do it very well. And I don't need you here over my shoulder asking me if I've done it. I know this doesn't make me a good employee. I also know that I have made myself smaller to fit into roles because I thought I had to take that job, right? There was no other solution. I refuse to make myself smaller. This is who I am. Take it or leave it. I appreciate you. I appreciate everything you bring. But now I'm not afraid to tell clients when they come to me, you know what, you might not be a good fit.
Yeah.
If I'm talking to a prospect and there's just something off, or there's a couple keywords that they say, I'm not bringing on any more clients at this time. However, I do appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me. When something comes up, I'll let you know, right? But
Yeah.
I already know you are going to be on my ass
Yes.
asking things over and over and over again, and it's just
Yeah.
like, you need to let me do my job. I know exactly what I'm doing. I do it very well. You need to step off. When I ask you
Yeah.
questions and I want stuff from you, we can have a conversation. That might be rude to some people as I'm saying it right now.
No. I feel like our intuition knows, and sometimes our head or our heart just wants something else. And if you're in a position, I guess this is the tricky thing, and I've experienced this before, with CRE recruiting and, at other times in my life, you might have a reason behind why you're walking past that red flag. You might go, well, I just really need the money right now, or I just really want to work with this client because it'll be a great resume builder or what have you. And so I do think that there are certain things that you can do as a means to an end, and certain things that you have to do when you're earlier in your career that you have the privilege to not have to do later in your career. But I do know there's a lot of people unnecessarily suffering in bad environments or working with bad clients who don't treat themselves or who don't treat them well, because maybe they have this expectation or this understanding that work doesn't have to be fun. Work should be fun, y'all. I think it's a red flag when it's not. And I think it's an opportunity to investigate, like, what are the things about this that are not working for me? It is better for you from a health perspective, whether that's mental, physical. Like I got very, very sick working in certain corporate environments that were not for me. And so I think pay attention to how you feel, pay attention to, when certain people call on the phone, do you want to pick up that call? Are you excited? I think the best part of the life that I have created for myself is like 95% of it feels like I am just like hanging with my friends and solving problems and having cool conversations and all of that. I have highly selected and filtered to get to that level, and I've worked my ass off in the process. And everyone deserves to be happy and respected, and to do things that they feel are meaningful and accomplishing whatever mission they're here on earth to do. And if you're not there yet, do that introspection. Start to talk to yourself, and have conversations about what is working and what's not working. Use those 4 questions. Move your body, go out in nature, do the thing that puts you in the flow, and remember who you are. And I guess the funniest thing I would say is, I am realizing more and more that who I actually am is the person I was when I was like, 13-year-old weird horse girl. And embracing that and getting back to that part of myself, I think has allowed me to connect so much more authentically with other people and to be someone who is really memorable and not like everybody else. And I think the like business, idea of going out there and, dominating the competition and being the most professional or whatever, it's like, who are you really, and why are you here? Like, the closer you can get to that, the sooner, the more I think empowered, fulfilled, and happy you're going to feel. And unhappiness is a sign for like a further investigation.
Yeah, absolutely. Ben says, I think you let it slip, Allison.
I let it slip? What? The weird...
Yeah, Ben, you'll have to tell us what you mean. We did, Lindsay Barden did suggest, she came up with a guess. It is a horse. Yeah. Allison is getting a horse, and he is gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
Just absolutely beautiful. So I'm sure you'll see more pictures.
More to come. We'll do a photo shoot for sure.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. That'll be amazing.
Like a real nerdy one. Yeah.
I can't wait. Like, I'm already picturing it and imagining exactly what it's going to look like.
It is amazing.
All right. So let's wrap this up. I the 13-year-old weird horse girl. Yes. 100%.
Oh yeah. 100% that. Yeah.
So what are three takeaways that we can learn from this episode, which is you want to exit with integrity, you want to enter with leverage, don't burn bridges, negotiate beyond your salary, super important. I think, we don't think about those things like marketing budgets or travel and entertainment or education. And so all of that is, you should know those things and be able to negotiate them as you're talking with this company. And then last but not least, I'd like to say that you need to treat your online presence, because this is a social media. So we talk about social media all the time. You need to treat your online presence like a career asset. Be very, very careful what you're saying on social. Be careful how you're representing yourself. We talk a lot, especially if you are active on X, your replies show up in other people's feeds. So if you're being like a little weird and skeezy on posts, like, we can all see that. And that means that your potential employer can also see that. That means your employer right now can see that. If they, think about that. If my employer were to come and investigate what I put out on social media, would that make me look good or would it make me look bad? How does that reflect on the company? And we've seen what happens when people do these. I mean, there's somebody that I know of in New York City who, there's a whole situation with a guy going viral for screaming at other people, and it's just like he lost his job and he can't get hired now, right? Like there's actual ramifications for how you portray yourself on social. So just keep that in mind. And you're really, your next chapter, if you are choosing to transition into another job, it starts long before the other one ends. So just forward thinking, I guess, is the best thing we can say. Allison, I love you. Thank you so much for showing up today. I appreciate you. How can, if people have questions about, say they actually, maybe they need to negotiate and they're coming up on talking with the company now, or their old company, the one they're currently with, how can they get in touch with you?
For sure. I am all over LinkedIn. I live there. I have for years. Feel free to drop into my DMs if you have questions, if I can help in any way. If you are a woman who wants more visibility, please sign up for the Women Speak CRE list at womenspeakcre.com. If you are an event planner for your organization, if you host conferences, if you're in the media, if you are internally looking for a speaker to bring into one of your employee resource groups, it is free. It is easy to use. I will help you use it. If you have questions, we need more women sharing their stories, sharing their voices. We need to attract the next generation into CRE, and this is how we do it. And I am happy to help you if you are looking for more visibility, how to transition, how to negotiate, anything at all, drop into the DMs. And Mo, I love you so much. And big hearts to fly. Be careful with those guns, y'all. Be careful. Some people at Guns and Grits, I'm like side-eyeing that they're holding firearms. Be careful. Be careful.
I love it. All right. Thank you, Allison, so much for showing up today. I appreciate you. And don't forget, if you are in Social Mastery VIP, give me about 10-15 minutes. I'm going to go live there, and we're going to be doing live LinkedIn audits. So we're going to be going over people's LinkedIn profiles and saying, okay, hey, this is what you need to change. This is what we need to fix. This looks beautiful. So I'm very, very excited to have you guys there. I'll see you there in about 15. And thank you so much. We'll see you back here on Tuesday.
On the surge.
On the surge.